Hey there everyone, this is Vice. I'm here doing something a little bit different to what I normally do. So, I normally make videos that are just gameplay videos, bit of music over the top and fast forwarded to make them quicker to watch, and I Twitch stream every so often as well, but I thought I'd do something a bit different because I've had a few messages, people asking, when are you going to make some more videos? And, well, the last video that I did that wasn't one of those music type ones was a video about me talking about making a deck and the thought process behind it, so I thought maybe I'd try and do something new. So yeah, I thought I'd try recording a new series of videos where I talk about concepts relating to the Pokémon TCG, concepts that are either more theory-based or perhaps talking about different decks and what to do with them. I don't know, we'll see how this goes. We'll do this first one. If people like it, I'll keep going with it. If people don't like it, maybe I'll Twitch stream more. Either way, I thought I would start with something that's reasonably applicable to everyone, and that is how not to be a scrub. So basically, defeating the scrub mindset that, can hold players back from being better or competing better than what they do. Now, a foreword to this is that being a scrub is okay. If you play Pokemon cards and you enjoy yourself, no matter where you place, whether you're first or last or whatever, and you do it the way that you want to do it, and you play the cards that you want to play, fine, no problem at all. The most important thing that you can do as a player is to just participate, to compete, to be part of it. I've been to my national championships every year since 2011, and I love it. And it doesn't matter how little I test before the event, that wouldn't sway me from attending, because being a part of your local events, being a part of your national events, it all helps. It's all important. It's always appreciated. If you're a nice person and you tell me that you refuse to play Sycamore in your deck, that's okay. I'll do my best to help you. I'll suggest, hey, maybe you want to play Sycamore in your deck, but if you don't want to, that's fine. And the reason why I'm making this video is for people that might be playing with a scrub mindset and don't realize that they are. And maybe you're sick of losing all the time to the same people for the same reasons, and you're looking at trying to step up your game. So you're the audience that I want to speak to. And so I wanted to talk about something to do with the term scrub. Now, words like scrub and noob are thrown around a lot for people, to generally refer to people who don't do as well as others in competition. And I want to reiterate that neither of these things is bad, but both of these things are also the reason why you might not be competing to the level that you might want to compete at. Now, a man by the name of David Sirlin wrote a book called, I think it's called Play to Win. I'll actually link it in the description of this video. So David Sirlin is well known in the fighting game community as somebody who sort of wrote the book on how to play with a winning mentality, and his book Playing to Win is all about playing with the goal of using every means within the rules and all your resources made available possible in order to win. So, a good example of that is playing Night March in Standard, right? You wouldn't play that deck without 3 or 4 Shaman, okay? And playing with anything less than that is generally considered like sort of a scrub move. Like, there's, if you decided I'm not going to play Night March with Shaman because I don't like losing 2 prizes, even though 99.9% of successful Night March players out there will play with a high counter shaman, you're reasoning that they're all wrong and you're going to do it your way, and that's sort of a scrub thing to do. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about the difference between scrubs and noobs. So, if you're a noob, that means that you're just new to the game. It doesn't matter if you're, a highly seasoned Magic the Gathering player. You come to Pokemon, you're a noob. You don't really know all of the things about the game that a seasoned player might. And so that even though you're trying to make the best decisions, you don't know because you don't have the experience. You haven't been playing the game for all that long. So that's what a noob is. A noob is somebody who doesn't know that a deck should have a high count of Sycamore, or doesn't know that Battle Compressor is a very good card for putting resources into your discard pile for access later, and to thin the deck to increase the chance of drawing into what you need. Or doesn't know that Shaman is a very good card because having high draw power means that you can get the resources or the card combos that you need more consistently. And that's as opposed to a scrub, which is somebody who's been playing long enough to know all those things and simply chooses not to because they believe in their own way of playing despite it not showing any results. So playing to win, which is the antithesis of being a scrub, is a mindset that you will use whatever means necessary within the rules, within the boundaries of the game, to win. And that includes, everything from using all the most overpowered cards to make sure your deck can keep up with other tier 1 decks in the format, to very tricky and complicated turns while you're playing, and knowing to do all the things that are within your power to do on your turn because you want to win. You do things like you remove your opponent's stadium and not forget to do that, or you make sure you're attaching energy every turn if you're able to, and things like that. It's basically you're doing everything within your power and means to win. And that definition's probably comes through more in a fighting game context, because in fighting games you have characters with overpowered moves, and let's take a classic example. Kids, or scrubs that complain that Pikachu's Thunderbolt is too powerful, and you just keep spamming it. Well, it's within your means to be able to do that. The game lets you do that, so therefore you'll do it. And so I want to quickly cover a short point about rule sharking. The term rule shark comes from people who look to seek advantages by punishing your opponent's technical mistakes. So for example, let's say your opponent played a judge and you accidentally drew 5 cards. The rule shark might then immediately call for a judge and demand a prize penalty is awarded because you made that mistake, or even just flat out demand that they win the game there and then. Okay, so that's generally considered rule sharking, and it's a bit of a grey area because you're well within your right to call a judge and let a judge deal with that situation if it came up, but generally looking to get those advantages, like actively seeking them or even baiting them, that's generally frowned upon. So I guess just be wary of that. I think that's something that comes with experience too. And that leads me to my next point as well. You might not always want to play to win. Now, this whole video is about playing to win, defeating the scrub mentality, and you might not always want to play to win despite that. And I would say a good example is Casual League Night. There's a new player that's come along to learn how to play the game, and they've shown up with their theme deck, okay? And you decide, I'm going to beat this person with Vileplume Vespiquen. Well, not only are you not really proving anything by playing Vileplume Vespiquen against a theme deck, you're also, you're potentially pushing away like a new player to the community. And when there's no stakes, when there's nothing at stake, maybe you want to think, a bit beyond yourself and think, hey, maybe I want to play a deck that demonstrates all the cool things that the card game can do. For example, I always keep my Garchomp deck handy because it demonstrates evolution, power of supporter cards, item cards, special energies, stadiums. It's got everything aside from EXs. I thought I would lead into my thoughts on a few different, I guess, signifiers of a scrub. So these are kind of like, 5 things a scrub would say, or 5 most scrubbiest statements I could think of, stuff like that. Anyway, the first point I'd like to bring up is people who say, nice copy-paste deck, or why don't you try and be original, and generally these are people who are playing a deck that they like. So they've gone, I really like Blaziken, so I'm going to make a deck with the Blaziken card that's in format. And they really like it. And they've researched the cards that are in format. And they've gone, yep, I'm going to put in Blacksmith and Black Torch, Fiery Torch and Scorched Earth and cards like that. And they're really proud of their own original creation. And it doesn't matter how competitively viable it is. It's theirs. They made it. It's a good deck. And anybody who's playing a tier 1 deck is just a copycat and they haven't come up with their own deck. They're obviously not very good at the game. They're not as good as them to have not come up with their own deck to beat their opponent with. Okay, wrong. This is a really scrubby mindset to have. Now, something I learned in uni is called the power of the crowd. Okay? Power of the crowd is something that comes with social media and Web 2.0, and what it's in reference to is it's harnessing the collective knowledge of everyone to come up with like the right answer or the best answer. And so, we live in an age where everybody's on Facebook, everybody's like on Burbank City, Facebook groups like that, and they all come together. And collectively, they talk, they iterate lists, and they all, together, we come up with what is like the most agreed upon, best all-rounded way to play a deck. And we have a lot of websites out there that help us do that, like 6 prizes, 60 cards, all those article websites. And so, by working together, by taking lists that other people have made, lists that people have spent hours upon hours of iterating upon other people's work who have, other people have also spent hours and hours of iterating, they together come up with whatever the best way is to play something. And they constantly throw stuff at it to try and beat it. And as soon as trends develop, people come up with new decks and they test it together, and those decks become the best. And they're the best because everybody's tried to beat them and they can't. Or they can, but not as consistently as those best decks can beat everything. So that's what I wanted to say about that mindset. Okay, you really like to play your Blaziken deck, and that's great. Okay, don't belittle other people for taking the collective effort of everyone and using it to their advantage. Okay, so if you want to overcome the first scrubby mindset, it's get over people playing tier 1 decks. Decks that are not tier 1 become good because tier 1 decks exist, because there's decks out there for them to beat. Okay, you generally have the decks that can beat everything and the decks that can beat what's the best. So that's something to think about. Alright, I want to go to number 2. Alright, the second scrubby mindset is, I don't like this card even though it's used in most successful decks, and I haven't tested a competitive list designed around these cards. So a good example of this is Shaman. I don't like Shaman even though it's used in successful decks. And the reason you might throw out is it gives up 2 prizes. Right? And a lot of people who say these things, a lot of players, scrubby players that say these things, generally just don't have access to those cards, or just, for example, throw out a reason like, I don't want to lose 2 prizes, and are too, hung up in that reasoning to see why people play Shaman. Why they don't take the time to sit there and wonder, I will lose if I put Shaman on the bench because it will get Lysandred and knocked out, but I'm still losing to people playing 3 or 4 Shaman in their decks. Why? Like, they haven't stopped to think about it. And yeah, that's why that mindset is scrubby, because one of the things that they'll do is they'll take that card that they don't like out of their list, but then they won't also design their list around the fact that they've taken it out. So it'd be like trying to play Night March without Shaman in the deck and just replacing those 4 Shamans with items, okay? Like more techie items, for example, because you've got all this new space. Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay? The deck just doesn't flow, it doesn't function. The whole deck is designed around the fact that you've got those Shamans to draw into to play down on your first turn. So, scrubby mindset number 3. Making decks which ignore the metagame and calling it rogue. This one irks me to no end. I know so many people who, okay, let's think back to scrubby mindset number 1, nice copy-paste deck, you noob, or whatever, and they sit there proudly with their Blaziken deck, and they might call it rogue. Okay? So, that's not a rogue deck. Playing that Blaziken deck, that's not rogue. Okay, that Blaziken deck is newbie. That Blaziken deck is fun, but it's not rogue. Now, a rogue deck is a deck that is designed to win, alright? And it ignores traditional strategies. And this is actually another concept that's covered in David Sirlin's book, Play to Win. So, and it's using like a secret strategy which will win because you can assume that your opponents will be employing a certain range of strategies. And so, a good example of this in recent years was the 2011 World Championships, where Ross Cawthorn showed up with the Truth, and that deck was a deck designed to absorb damage and remove it from whatever was active and just beat down with the active Pokemon in that deck. And that deck preyed upon the fact that you could very easily predict what cards or what decks were going to be popular, and none of those popular attackers could exceed the amount of HP on Reshiram and Zekrom and those types of 130 HP, high HP Pokemon. And that's why he did so well. That's why he got second. Because most opponents just couldn't deal with the strategy which nobody had seen or tested against. And that is a rogue. So a rogue is a deck which considers what is popular and is built to counter it, and is not necessarily made of any cards that are currently popular. If you want to expect to do well, these are the things that you need to start thinking about. These are the things you need to start doing. Okay, now the last thing I wanted to talk about after all of this is an analogy that my good friend James Goring came up with, and it's about building decks that kind of suck anyway, but you like, alright? So why would you bother, if you're going to be a really good player, why would you bother making a deck that sucks? Like me, for example, when Fates Collide came out, I grabbed Superiors, and I grabbed Mega Ordinos, and I didn't expect either of those cards to be good, but I wanted them. I wanted to make a deck with them. And James's analogy is that, decks like that are kind of like your Sunday drive, and your Sunday drive, you don't necessarily want to enter into a car race, but you enjoy driving them, so that's why you've got them. You might have like a really old Cadillac or something, and you love driving it, you love sitting in it and just owning it, okay? And I have decks that are like that too, that I just really enjoy having and enjoy playing, even though I don't expect to do well with them. It's the same kind of deal. You turn up to national championships, yeah, you probably want to turn up in your Formula One car, because that's what you want to be driving if you want to win the race. And everybody else is going to be in there in their F1s. But that's not to say that you don't also own a few Cadillacs in the garage that you really enjoy. So yeah, that's it for me. Hopefully this video isn't too long, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I've thought about this a lot, and every so often I post something along these lines, so I'm really happy to get it into a video format. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. Please let me know what kinds of videos you would like, what decks you would like me to think about, talk about. And I'd really like to produce more content for you guys, because without you watching it, I probably wouldn't be here making them. So yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.